everyone and media. I'm honored to be joined by Dr. George Mansoor, with extensive expert in internal medicine, nephrology, and hypertension, and the global still and its consequences. We're going to explore the reach of hypertension around the world and its effects here at home in Antigua and Barbuda, the land that we love so dearly, and why, paradoxically, it remains highly preventable and treatable, and with all the technology and all the resources that we have available to us. So we're going to be discussing some practical steps for prevention, early detection, and effective management. I want to say a special welcome to George Mansoor. It's first time in this new format for Twin Island Media. Good night, Dr. Mansoor. How are you doing?
Good night, Mr. Ward, and it's good to see you again and to be collaborating with you.
Yeah.
It is the new media, and it will soon become the better media, I hope.
I hope so too, for all our sakes. We spend a lot of time, and it's those of hypertension is often called a silent killer. From your perspective, what are the most significant global health high blood pressure?
Well, hypertension is really sort of the perfect example of a condition that has very bad consequences, but is totally asymptomatic. So you can have hypertension for decades and feel perfectly fine, and that is the whole problem in a way with high blood pressure. I mean, if one's ankle is hurting, it draws attention to the problem, and if it's bad enough, then the patient will seek a remedy, whether it's through the their own home things, or through seeing a physician or a nurse or somebody. So hypertension, in a way, I always say to my students and residents, I wish it would cause symptoms, but the fact is it doesn't. So the only way to know what your blood pressure really is to have it checked. So just a small caveat on that. The caveat is that when the blood pressure is at an extreme level, either very high or very low, of course, yes, then it becomes somewhat symptomatic, and it's just a response to the extremity of the value. But the more sort of common elevations we're talking about are totally asymptomatic, and that's really part of the problem. The second thing about hypertension is extremely prevalent. Right now, it's estimated that somewhere between 1.5 to 2 billion people in the world have hypertension, high blood pressure, which is an astronomical number. And guess what? We used to think that these NCDs mostly affect the developed countries, the countries with the high GDPs, and but it's become apparent in the last 25 years that hypertension and a lot of these NCDs are not really behaving like that. They're affecting even quote unquote less developed or less economically advantaged countries. And so that itself poses unique problem, which is having the financial and economic resources and manpower resources to tackle an NCD like hypertension.
Right. And in terms of Antigua's problem, 2 billion, which is, I don't know, 30%. What's the worst population now? They say something like that?
Yes, it's somewhere around 7 billion, 7 to 8 billion, which is really an astronomical number. I would think that the proportion of adult persons in Antigua who have hypertension is probably similar to other countries, which would be 20%, 25%. I mean, if I just walk down a road in High Street and I stop at random
Hmm.
4 or 5 gentlemen
Yes.
or ladies and ask them if they're hypertensive, well, one or two might know they have hypertension. One or two might have heard that in the past they had hypertension, but they're not studying it. And another couple may
Right.
not have seen a physician. So it's a very prevalent condition. And because, as we said earlier, it's asymptomatic, the only way to know is to check the blood pressure yourself at home or to have it
Uh,
checked by a medical professional.
right. Now, I, I guess it's an old. I'll just say, if you have a pain in your neck, or I don't know, pain in your leg, it's probably hypertension. Use this as shows I had a headache for the last 2 3 days. Is there any connection with those symptoms that we can all identify with and hypertension? Not necessarily.
I would say that only if the blood pressure is extremely elevated do you get symptoms like headaches. They've done studies, research, and when I use the word research here, I mean it in a scientific sense. I don't mean it like how people use the word research these days, which is, oh, I did a search on Google or something like that. Studies have shown that, and these studies were very rigorous, meaning they had hundreds of patients measure their blood pressure at home using accurate devices, and they asked them to enter based
Hmm.
on how they felt whether the blood pressure would be high, normal, or low. And guess what? It was an absolutely random finding, meaning patients in general could not
Hmm.
tell when the blood pressure was elevated, when it was normal, and when it was low. So the idea
Right.
we need to sort of get people away from is, if I'm feeling well, I can't have hypertension or I can't have diabetes or these chronic diseases. We have to come to a situation
Mm.
going forward of engagement
Right.
between the population and the healthcare system. And I would add the reverse, which is the healthcare system engaging with the population. So that
Right.
is a very important thing as we start thinking how we're going to manage these chronic diseases going forward in the
Mhm.
Caribbean. And the current management structure, the current management where patients come in when they're feeling unwell, is not a viable a structure,
Mhm.
because we're
Yeah.
waiting until patients experience a complication and become symptomatic
Yeah.
and then interact with the healthcare system. So we need the healthcare system to be much more agile, much more reaching out to the population, and whatever the mechanisms are that will allow
Mhm.
that. We need to seriously look at how our healthcare delivery, the process of healthcare, can be
Mhm.
changed, can be retooled to become more effective
Mhm.
and efficient at dealing with
Right.
these NCDs, so to speak, such as hypertension.
What are the major risks in hypertension, and I guess by extension here in Antigua? Is it diet, physical activity, aging? Hello? Are you hearing
Yes,
me?
I'm here. Yeah, yes. So I
Okay.
think your question
Okay.
may have been, what are the factors driving the increased prevalence of hypertension? You were cutting in and out. Um, so yes,
Yes.
as one
Sorry
gets
about that.
older, there's a natural tendency. That's okay. There's a natural tendency for the blood pressure to go higher and higher. So that's one factor. The second, of course, is that hypertension usually doesn't occur in solitary. It usually has accompaniments of high cholesterol, sometimes glucose intolerance or even frank diabetes. So the I think what you're getting at is what are the causes of the causes? In other words, what's
Yes.
driving the hypertension, the diabetes, all these things? And that's really a fundamental question to which we don't have definitive answer to, but we do
Mhm.
know that this change has occurred in the Caribbean, for example, in the last 30 to 40 years. So if you look at bigger countries, they transitioned from a healthcare system that went from mostly infectious diseases over a period of 100 years, 120 years
Mhm.
to these non communicable diseases. In the Caribbean and other parts of the world, that transition has occurred in a much shorter time. It's actually occurred in the last 30 to 40 years, where we've gone from a society
Yeah.
that is pretty healthy but had infectious diseases now to a society which has much higher prevalence of these NCDs. The speculation, of course, is that this is
Right.
related to change in diet, lifestyle. People are no longer eating at home; they're eating at work or outside the home, and I guess it speaks to a
Mhm.
fundamental bad shift in the way that the society has developed. Not just, as I said, in the Caribbean. It's happening all over the world. Even in China, where we see people there who are not as overweight or as
Mhm.
prone to certain diseases, they're having the same transition as well. And so we're not, I think one has to be honest as a
Right.
scientist, say when we don't know for sure, and we don't know for sure.
Mhm. Yes. Understood. Just to let and just so that I'm clear, Dr. Mansoor, yesterday was actually the actual day, right? But
Yes,
we are having this discussion today, right?
yes, May the
Okay.
17th.
Just
Yes,
so,
that's World Hypertension Day. It is driven
mhm.
by the World Hypertension League, which is led by multi country experts and also is affiliated with all of the major hypertension societies throughout the world.
Mhm. All right. Now, can you highlight some of the leading preventable conditions of hypertension? Um, if we don't pay attention with what consequences?
Okay, well, let me give an analogy here before I go into the complications. So hypertension is really a
Perfect.
vascular disease. It damages your arteries. And of course, where are
Hmm.
arteries in the body? They're everywhere. That's how we get our nutrition. So everywhere in the body could potentially be affected by high blood pressure that is not treated and controlled. And the main
Hmm.
major complications would include stroke, which of course is one of the most feared complications of high blood pressure. You can get heart disease, whether it's heart failure or decompensation of the
Hmm.
heart, or coronary artery disease. You can also get, of course,
Hmm.
kidney failure, kidney disease. And in the Caribbean and elsewhere, hypertension and diabetes are the main causes of chronic kidney failure and the eventual need to go on dialysis or to have a kidney transplant. So hypertension really can cause very catastrophic complications. You can
Hmm.
also get peripheral arterial disease, which is a reduction in circulation to the extremities. I think that a comparison of hypertension could be it's a very slowly progressive condition. For example, I always give this analogy to my patients, which is supposing you were in a room that had a small leak of water and it rained every day, and that little leak was
Hmm.
dripping onto a sheet of galvanized. It will drip for a long time, but nothing happens. But if it continues, the water will eventually punch a hole in the galvanized. And that's
Mm,
what hypertension does. Hypertension fools you into thinking that
mm,
everything is great, nothing's going to happen. I'm feeling good. Look, me not bother with no doctor. Me feel good. What me go doctor for? So you see,
mm,
this is a
mm,
sort of a smartness by hypertension in a way that causes us to put our guard down and not be vigilant. No, it doesn't mean if you have high blood pressure that you have to take medication or anything like that. I know people always worry about that,
right.
but there are so many different lifestyle things that one can do to reduce their blood pressure and bring it down to an acceptable level. Critical to this, and I see this a lot in Antigua, there's always confusion by both patients and doctors about what really is my blood pressure. I keep checking it, but I'm getting high reading, a normal reading, a not so high one. How does one integrate that into some kind of
Mm,
decision about whether the patient needs treatment or not? And I find sometimes that uncertainty leads to paralysis of action, whether it's by the doctor or the patient. And
mm,
increasingly, we're seeing more and more patients doing their own blood pressures at home, which I think is an excellent move because we do know that when home blood pressures are taken accurately, they can actually be more informative than the reading that's taken in the doctor's office. So, home blood pressures are very, very valuable once they're done in the correct way. And I use them all the time to make decisions about whether to
mm,
start patients on treatment. And I sometimes use it to prove to the patient, hey, you are in your castle, your blood pressure is high at home. It shouldn't be like that. You have sustained increase in blood pressure. It needs attention.
those examples or that illustration is considered why understand it's called. When you go to the office to check your pressure, the doctor office to check your pressure, sends you. I think it's true. Am I wrong?
Well, no, there's an element of truth to that. I spent 25 years researching
Okay.
that very topic, pretty much. Um,
Okay.
the office environment is one in which it can lead to increases in blood pressure and heart rate for sure.
Right.
And that's why I just mentioned earlier that we rely heavily on home blood pressure, out of office blood pressure readings. Now,
Right.
sometimes this situation is used as an excuse not to treat blood pressure. Patients never take that next step. So if you go to the doctor and your blood
Right.
pressure is elevated, it doesn't mean that the blood pressure elsewhere is normal. And there are two particular
Mhm,
situations you need to watch for. One, what is your blood pressure at home? And you can do some readings over 2, 3 weeks, take the readings in a standardized way. Any doctor can tell you how to do it. And the next area you have to look at is at work. You spend 6, 8 hours at work
mhm,
during the day, and it could be a stressful situation. So you need to know what's happening at work. So I wouldn't be completely dismissive of a
mhm,
situation where a patient says to me that, oh, my blood pressure is only high at your office. I say, well, my next
mhm,
question is, okay, can you check your blood pressure at home for the next few weeks? Can you check it at work? And send me the readings. And I can then be certain that your blood pressure is not elevated uh, even
right.
outside of my office. And I would say there will be genuinely
Mhm,
some people where the blood pressure is only in the office elevated, but I would say the vast majority of people who believe that it's not true.
understood. Um, What are some focus a little bit on happening here in Antigua? Patterns or community? Is it dietary patterns, physical activity, or lack thereof? If you could just break that down for us. A big and bigger problem.
Well, yes, it's hypertension dominates the landscape in Antigua, just like secondly would be diabetes. Of course, there are, malignancies, cancer, and so on. But the condition that is probably most prevalent in the Caribbean and Antigua is hypertension. And, I think that, as we mentioned earlier, many different factors go into the elevation of blood pressure. And let me just clarify something. What factors led to the blood pressure being elevated is important because it may give you clues about how to tackle it. However, it does not necessarily mean, if you don't know the reason, that it doesn't need management. And by management, what I mean is being treated to a level that is safe. So, there are patients who can do lifestyle changes. They start walking, they lose some weight, they start sleeping the full 6 or 8 hours that they need. They try to reduce stress, they stop eating out, and their blood pressure comes down. That's a success. Yes, I totally endorse that. Sometimes there are other issues. They may have sleep apnea, high salt intake, they're eating out every day. They have a brand new kitchen, but they eat out every day. I mean, when you eat out, you have absolutely no control over what you're eating from many aspects, and you're basically subjecting yourself to the whims and fancies of some chef or somebody who just whipped up something in the little trailer that they're selling their food from. Not to hit on anybody,
Right.
but if I want to know if somebody's salt intake is high, I have one simple question: how often do you eat out every week? If they're eating out more than 4 or 5
Okay.
times, then it's usually an indicator that their salt intake is too high.
Activity took place or is taking place in commemoration of World Hypertension Day?
Well, honestly, we have so many different activities that occur almost daily, weekly. And so we are not come out doing any special activity this outreach this year. We do a lot of other screenings in kidney disease and heart disease and so on. What I would like to see, Daren, is a shift in a way to trying to maybe even trying to emphasize a holistic approach to the NCDs by the different societies. Because frequently what I hear from patients is they get confused because, this society said this society said that, this active, and I think that's not a good thing. What we really need is a coming together of all the associations of the NCDs into a unitary space, meaning they're all talking in the same way, because the risk factors for hypertension, for diabetes, for heart disease, for stroke, these are all actually the same risk factors. Cancer, they're all the same risk factors. And I feel that perhaps
Right.
doing that would be a much more effective way to educate the public rather than every week you hear a different society or different doctor giving you different advice.
About situation here in Antigua like this from time to time on TV, or should I say you're a guest on a program on national TV from time to time. You've been an advocate with poor hypertensive health. What can we do? Is there a silver bullet? Because some people, they wait until something happens before they actually themselves to the care of a doctor. But by then it's almost too late.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
How do you deal with
Well,
that
let me
as
speak
a
to the men
professional in this
first.
space?
Let me speak to the men. The men are the ones who
Worst.
um,
Yeah.
always get a failing grade on this because, and I don't know the reasons. We would need to have some psychologists and some social workers dig into this, but it is frightening how commonly we see a male, usually in their 40s, 50s, 60s, come to the hospital with a
Mm-hmm.
complication, a serious complication, sometimes life threatening.
Right.
And the first thing that
Mm-hmm.
comes out of the mouth is, well, I was told 10 years ago I have high blood pressure. And they've totally ignored it. And they're
Mm.
always the same answer. Well, your blood pressure is extremely elevated. You should have, and then they say, well, I felt good. And this is the problem we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about earlier. Uh, so
Right.
hypertension is really a silent killer. It is a silent killer, and we
Mm-hmm.
have to hunt it down and try to deal with it. And I I believe that we need to change the way we deliver healthcare in the region. The current model, which is, if you look across the Caribbean, go to other islands. I've worked across many islands in the Caribbean. It's the same healthcare delivery
Mm.
model, especially in the OECS. The country has one large hospital. They usually have one or two small private hospitals. And then there are a series of outposts where some kind of care is sort of delivered, I would say, incomprehensively. So we need to change that model, and we need to sort of try to shift things away from the hospital setting where we're dealing with
Mm.
complications, and we need to sort of move away from that when I say move away from that, I don't mean getting rid of it. What I mean is empowering the other aspects of the healthcare system so that they are able to work on prevention, detection, and intervention. Think about this for a minute. A few days ago, a patient came to my office. He woke up one morning and he couldn't see from his left eye. And this is such a startling discovery, of course.
Just wow.
And I
Mm.
said to him, well, what
Yes, of
happened?
course, like that. Wow.
Just like that. And
Uh-huh.
he said to me, well, I
Mm.
went to the doctor and they said I have bleeding in my eye. And I said to you must be a diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
He said, yes, I'm a diabetic. I said, how long you had diabetes? He said, only a few years. And I said, no way. You had diabetes much longer. And he said, yeah, probably right. Because I did notice that there was something going on for many years and I didn't pay any attention to it. So what I'm saying, Mr. Dav, is we need to change the
That
way
you can call
the
me
current
Daren. That's fine.
system. Yeah, we got to change the system now from radar detection, meaning the patient comes to you. They fly into your medical airspace and they come and say, I have something wrong. We got to change that and go out to the public and try to find the problems that are there and intervene while we can. So that's a nice thing to say, but
Uh-huh.
it requires a lot of planning. So my belief is that every island in the Caribbean should really have a 5-year plan, a 4-year plan of how we are going to transform our healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that
Mm.
when a person interacts with the healthcare system, it would be interacting with all parts of it. It's not that if a patient comes to my office right now and I treat them, they could go to the hospital the same night and have a problem, but nobody can access my chart, my notes, which may have critical information
Mm.
for that
Yes.
patient's life. It could be the patient. So we need to move to a comprehensive ways to not operating in silos. We're operating in silos now. One silo is a
Yes.
hospital, another silo public health
Mm-hmm.
clinic, another silo private
Mm-hmm.
doctors, another silo pharmacies, another silo
Mm-hmm.
MBS. So it's fragmented, and that fragmentation
Mm-hmm.
has consequences. So because if you can
Right.
imagine if there was a unified way of tracking and intervening, you could know when a patient was recorded to have high blood pressure, and you could know if they're taking any medication or if they've been to any dietitian just from the non-silo healthcare, because you can track the pharmacy records, you can track all the dietary information. So in that case, now we would be reaching out to that patient. Guess what? A few weeks ago, I got a phone call, and I'm there talking. That the phone call said to me, this was from overseas. Oh, Mr. Mansoor, this, we want to call you
Yes.
because we want to do a home health visit. And it's only at the end I
Mm-hmm.
realized it was not a human, it was AI. AI was calling me because, as part of an insurance plan, you're supposed to have a home healthcare visit. And I said to myself, wow,
Oh.
well, think of that. It was such an,
Oh.
so we
Okay.
need to be able to reach out to people that need to come in and see the doctor, or they
Mm-hmm.
need some kind of intervention. They haven't had their eye check for their diabetes. Come on, we will schedule it for
Mm-hmm.
you. You need transportation. We'll get you there. That's how important these interventions are, because when patients develop complications, it costs a lot to the government and to the economy, not to mention the
The
personal
individual.
suffering
Yeah.
and their family. Sometimes a sole breadwinner in the house
Good.
becomes disabled, and that not just affecting that person, it's affecting the whole family. So what I'm saying is we need to roll these things out over a period. That's not something we can do in 1 year. It has to be done over a period of time where we look at all the important things that need to be done. We get feedback from actual patients, how they, what is missing in the
Mm-hmm.
current way we deliver care. How can we improve it? What sort of things? And this is not a big brother approach, meaning it's not that we want to spy on anybody or we want to do, this is a way of reaching out to persons who may need certain health care, but they've forgotten, they don't want to do it. And you can opt in and out, just like you can opt in and out of a software or chat group or whatever. And I feel that for
Right.
all the NCDs, we need to move in that direction in order to take some of the responsibility, meet the patient halfway, so to speak. And life can be very busy. You can be very busy. You may have forgotten all about the blood work you're supposed to do, or your pap smear, or
Mm-hmm.
all these things. And the reason I'm
Yeah.
deliberately straying from hypertension is that all these diseases are similar in many ways. It's the same problems we're facing: poor screening, not following up, and hence the
Mm-hmm.
process of care is just as important as the care that you develop, because you cannot deliver good care without having a good process of care.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Doc, as we actually beyond our initial allotment of time. I was gauging for about half an hour or so. About to let you back on, because I think there are a couple of as well, and all the other aspects of our health. If you're available, if there was one action point or thought that you would like to leave, or to use another analogy from the farming world, if there's a you'd like to sow in the hearts and minds of those who are on our live and who will see later on YouTube and Facebook, what would that nugget be? Awesome.
Well, as far as hypertension, I would say get your blood pressure checked. You don't have to pay to go see a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Get a blood pressure machine, keep it at home, Take your blood pressures. If they're elevated at home, your pressure should be 130/80 or less. If you're getting 140 and 150 at home and 160 consistently, that says that you need to go then to see a doctor or clinician anywhere in the private sector, the public sector. Don't ignore that, because one thing we've learned also about hypertension is if you treat hypertension early, it tends not to escalate. If you ignore it, the 150 then becomes 160, then 170, then 180. And therefore, there's an acceleration of the disease process. So that would be my takeaway. And if you're a responsible person, you have children, you have brothers, you have sisters, look, it's nothing. You can if you don't have a blood pressure machine, borrow one. Go by your sister, your brother-in-law, somebody. Check your pressure, do it properly. You don't know how to do it, ask a doctor or nurse. Read about it on the computer or your phone. Take some time away from social media and try to empower yourself.
Very, very good advice. So, Doc, we'll have a part two. I think this deserves a time. I'll probably just commit the entire live to you with this conversation. Is that all right?
Yes, thank you. That's great. I appreciate you having me on your show.
And so we are going to continue our live. We're going to share this, and when I come back, we're going to be joined by an educator and commentator particular political party. They're both going to be joining us, and we're going to be having a conversation about this discussion about Spanish being our second language, or officially our second language. I to debate on my, and 100 comments later. There are quite a few discussion points on it. So we're going to flesh it out tonight, get the views of someone pro discussions right after this.
Are you ready to paint? Casada Paints and Supplies Inc. is the perfect place to start. We are the official distributors of Sherwin-Williams Paints, Sherwin-Williams, with over 150 years of innovation and experience, offers more than 1,500 paint colors to choose from. Our color palettes are handpicked by professional designers, making it easy to coordinate colors throughout your home or business. Visit us on the Utility Drive, Casada Gardens, or call 562-9450. All you have to do is visit or call Casada Paints.
Every home starts with a plan and a solid foundation. With Community First Foundation Savings Account, you can save for down payments, closing costs, and major home repairs one step at a time. Designed for first-time buyers and homeowners alike, this account encourages disciplined saving with a simple start and 12-month savings period that keeps your goals on track. Build smarter, save stronger with a foundation savings only at Community First Cooperative Credit Union, because strong homes start with strong foundations.
Media live tonight for those who've been joining us on Facebook and on YouTube. I think we need to do some more pub marketing on the YouTube side, because on Facebook would have or they haven't been it in our notifications to an island whenever we do go live. They just prefer YouTube, and it's easier. You don't be a subscriber. Something that we need to do some more of. We are also available on YouTube. All right. Now, last week, Thursday, Friday, a significant controversy in Antigua. The controversy towards the end of last week had to do with that Spanish be officially designated as a second language. From the cabinet notes, all right, the cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda has approved a major national policy. Just to make it, not seeing them. The cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda national policy initiative aimed at strengthening multilingual, cultural, and economic by establishing Spanish as the country's own. As part of this policy decision, the cabinet has mandated the Ministry of Education and Science to begin restructuring curriculum at the preschool, secondary school levels to ensure that education system. Cabinet notes Antigua and Barbuda engagement and recognizes the importance generations with language skills that will expand and economic opportunities. There's also understanding historical, cultural, and connections between Antigua and Barbuda. Acknowledged that the community development that continues to exist between the people of countries. Believes strengthening and residents will improve communication and work effectively with Spanish-speaking countries. So you get the gist there. We by Perez Howson, and he has some thoughts on this whole debate that we have or discussion as it relates to the speaking of the Spanish language as a initially, I mean, I did not have any particular challenge with the concept and with, I believe, the idea or the thrust behind the idea, which I think we all know it's an asset. I wish I was fluent in another language, whether it's German, Swahili, so that I can improve connections with people around the world. So I don't see it as a bad idea. However, the response on social media and the response on poor little phones, it was this strong about this issue. Let me share it with me, just for the benefit of a way of diluting what is truly Antigua. The person rolls their eyes. What's our Spanish? Other than Spain's sponsorship of the Italian, claimed it for Spain. The decision made by the is wrong, and this question should ballot for a vote. That's one. And another sentiment by someone else on Facebook. Greater depths for Perez Howson, who's an educator, and he has certainly some. As your thought? To being for language as a society.
Good evening to everybody that's listening. Good evening to you, Daren. Just want to make sure you can hear me clearly. Say it. Okay, great, perfect. So I am not opposed to it's a great thing for us to learn a foreign language. As a matter of fact, I'm an individual who loves different languages, love to hear different things. Something other than English is always nice to hear, especially when I travel. To hear something outside of Spanish is actually something I look forward to. It's a breath of fresh air, because here in Antigua or close to home, I am hearing Spanish. So I'm not, right. I think it's a great idea.
But
the challenge that I have with it, and which is what I made reference to on your page, it's not that I have an issue with it being a second language. It's something that we're just hearing for the first time, that it's going to become an official language of Antigua. And I think that is cause for concern. There was no discussion that I can recall for the public to weigh in on the logics behind it. I don't necessarily agree with the person that would have spoke on your page about, what is our historical connection. We have some connections beyond just Spain and passing by. Our forefathers would have worked on the Panama Canal and so on, and of course going to Dominican Republic and so on. So there is some connection. That's not the challenge. To make it a second language for the purpose of building for the future, position for the future, that's great, but that's not going to happen right now. And I like what Dr. Mansoor would have said earlier, where we need to have a succession plan. What is the plan? How do you plan to get there other than the school just teaching Spanish from preschool? Because it's not new. The idea is not new. The Dutch Caribbean does it. The persons who come out of the Dutch Caribbean, they learn 4 languages. So it's nothing new. But my challenge with the whole idea of Spanish as an educator, which is where I really want to emphasize, is that too many times we have students coming into our schools who are Hispanic and they know 0 English. I am not a Spanish speaker. So when you bring a child into the school who is not speaking English, how am I supposed to reach that child? There needs to be something put in place for these children to navigate their new environment, which is where I have the challenge. Why aren't we addressing it there? Because in my mind, and again, I'm asking the viewers to not knock you or anyway, this is my thinking. in my mind, we are putting the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse, rather. There we go. Because there are a lot of our Spanish speaking friends and family members who are here, who have been here for years and they don't speak English. Some of them actually refuse to speak English. When parents come to the schools that I've worked at before, you have to call for the child to translate because the parent can't understand what I'm saying to them. So how are we going to address that? Because in my mind, now that this Spanish is a second language, an official second language, what is going to mandate them to now learn English? Because now you're saying it's a second language, so they don't need to worry about anything because they're going to cater for them now to be able to communicate. So there's something that is needed to bridge that gap, because if we don't have something in place, we're going to lose these same people. When we go to places like China, Mexico, Cuba, we send our students to these places. They must enroll in a year-long program in order to learn the language. Why are we then having children coming here who are not speaking English, which English is our main language, not enroll in something to help them navigate their new space? It is unfair to these people. The idea is great because it will allow for us to be able to interact globally, especially with our Spanish speaking friends. But that is not going to happen before the next 15 years. It's a generation that's going to take to do that. And that's the persons that are starting now in the preschool and primary school. But what happens now? What are we going to do for the persons who are there now? We need to put something in place. And that is where I have the challenge with this whole idea of it being a second language. One, just to reiterate, it is going to cause our Spanish friends to not think it's important to speak Spanish anymore because their mother tongue is now official. And it's up to us now to learn to speak Spanish, to interact with them, versus them learning English to interact with us. They'll never lose their culture. There are too many of them here to lose their culture. So it's not, and there are a lot of people who would like to learn Spanish as well. But what are we doing for those who are here and need the help to learn English? Just like when we send our students away to learn a foreign language or to go to school in those countries. That is where my challenge comes in with that.
I'm going to invite Dr. Dave Ray to space. Dr. Ray, good evening. Welcome to Twin Island Live. Once again, how are you doing? Ray, can you hear me? Let's give him his. Hello. Challenge. And so I guess we'll have to continue with the discussion. What could prioritizing Spanish do you see it in an impact, a negative impact on existing courses of study? That's for you.
Prioritizing the language, not necessarily. The challenge that we see in the schools right now, that our young people don't speak English very well either. So we are already prioritizing English as a language, and they're struggling. I'm going to be frank with you, Daren. They struggle with English. And part of the reason for that is because of social media. People hardly use proper English when they're typing. It's all shorthand. And the students don't know how to transfer information. So they don't know how to navigate spaces. You're speaking online, you use shorthand. I mean, we do it as adults, but we're able to code switch between online talk and talking in an academic space. So that's the first issue. Then we have the issue of using dialect. Dialect, for some reason, is not recognized as a language, and that in itself is a challenge, because most of our young people learn dialect before they learn English. That is our quote unquote first language, dialect, because most of our parents, our parents, our generation parents that went before us, right, they speak dialect. I was commenting to my mom the other day that we understood the importance of learning English and we couldn't speak dialect to our parents. We couldn't speak dialect to adults because it's seen frowned upon.
That is very true.
But yeah, so I can't. If you only speak dialect to your parents, you get a slap in your face. Like,
Things going on here, ladies
Hello?
and gentlemen. All right.
okay, I'll
Hi,
hold.
Perez.
You can hear me now, right?
Complete point. Yes, I can hear everybody now. Complete your point,
Good,
Perez.
great.
Right. So it's a case where we have to instead of prioritizing Spanish mean negative, not necessarily because we prioritize English and they still can't use it. So it's just a matter of understanding. I think we need to place more emphasis on understanding our local dialect, number one, being a thing, then seeing the importance of code switching. And somebody said in the chat that not all adults are able to code switch. Well, that is very true. But we have a challenge with that simply because of social media. Persons are not able to code switch between the two because they utilize social media. And because of the young people we have now, where they were born in technology, it's very hard for them to switch between the two.
Today, Ray, Doc, good night. It's good to see you. How are you doing?
Good night. And can you see me? Because my phone is not. I was using my laptop, and it seems like. Oh, there we are. There we are. Yeah, I was using my laptop before, and I did something some days ago, and I screwed up this audio. I don't know what happened. So sometimes I try to pretend I understand technology, but I really don't. So I had to switch to my phone, which I wanted to use the laptop because it's better. But anyway, I was into Perez, and I thought he made points to his thinking, and all ideas should contend. I believe that this is the whole idea of Spanish being our second language. A lot of people, it's like when you add fuel to a fire, everybody gets excited. But I think give yourself another year and this will calm down. I am, being myself, being entrepreneurial and risk taking. I always believe that ideas such as these only bring value to any nation. Now, when I hear people speaking about why don't we embrace our dialect, that's already our second language. That's already our language, our twang, our Creole. You don't have to make that a second because that is a part of who we are. This, to me, in this case, although it's frightening for some people to hear it, I don't make a person to learn it. What the government is intending to do, and they have had their own consultations, may not have been a public discourse as many of us would have liked. But for several reasons, we are trying to expand our base, our entrepreneurial base in terms of investment and so forth. And the Spanish-speaking countries, many Spanish-speaking countries around the world that are willing to invest with us, willing to do business with us, open new markets for so many reasons. We also can export some of our citizens because I think that our economy is quite small and we cannot employ every single person in our economy. So if we are able to create another avenue for people to have that they can market outside of Antigua, it's in the United Nations or major companies in the world. I can't see how it would be a disadvantage for us. I can only see it as a benefit. That I do agree that there are other things that need to be developed, which means mathematics need to be developed more. But those are not languages. Those are not languages. There are many people who are bilingual who can't do math, do translations. And yes, somebody said you can use AI to do translations now. That may be true. But there's some people who need people that it can only benefit us if we have a second language. I don't believe that the government is expecting that tomorrow.
complete your point.
You're going to say something, Daren? Yeah, I was that tomorrow everybody's going to learn this language. That is why they're trying to, from pre-K or kindergarten all the way up to secondary school. So I would say the next 10, 15 years, you will see this being a trend. When I go to France, when I go to South Korea, and I go to South Korea and France quite often, the young speak English now. Years ago, when you go to the stores where older people are, you have the young people translate for them, because I don't know if they make it a second language, but if they've actually instituted English in their curriculum in school, so all the young people speak English. Years ago, when I used to go to France, I'm talking the 80s and 90s, the French people were very rude to us. Speak English, they didn't want to speak to you. But the newer generation, when you hear them speak, they actually have an American accent now when they speak English, because they've all been learning English. Now, I don't know what their school policies are. I don't know what the government has done, but a lot of the young people in France are now speaking English. You don't have to English words. They're making weekend. Weekend used to be le fin de jour, fin de la semaine. Now they're saying le weekend. In French. They're using a lot of words, English, French. Good directions. Used to a young person, 20, 19, 25, they can tell you in English where you have to go. So you don't even need to learn French as much. People in Korea who are speaking, young people, they can translate quite well. So I can see it being a benefit to us. The changes that are going to be made will have to be made over time. You won't be able to change every single, for example, labels and all the actual instructions and so on tomorrow. Is going to take some time. We also need to find resources of people to train our students in English. But I think balancing one second. Balancing math and Spanish, I don't see why both can be done simultaneously. I do one over the other. I don't understand why. But anyway, go ahead. Question.
Okay. Let me ask you. Wasn't a part of the as Labour Party is meeting with members of the Dominican Republic. It was there, and obviously some made they expressed themselves in terms of concerns that they had and so on and so forth. But this is a part of whatever promise was made to them. But this wasn't for a lot of other vote.
You're breaking up.
This was part of the conversation.
I don't know why you're breaking up.
Part of the conversation.
Second, you're breaking up. You're breaking up a lot, Daren. Daren, hold on. Yeah, you're breaking up a lot. But go ahead.
Yeah. Campaign. Do not think that the government should have engaged in more consultation on this. It's basically what I want to ask. The issue of the campaign that was just prosecuted.
The government should have done more to inform the public of this plan. Yes. Can you hear my answer?
Okay. I'm hearing you now, yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah. The government should have done more marketing of this before, so the public can know that this is something they plan to do. I believe I agree with that wholeheartedly. Right? Did you hear what I just said though?
Okay. All right.
It's delayed. Are you hearing me?
Perfect. I did.
Yeah. So I'm saying I believe the government should have done this new Renaissance plan before, so that the public could have been aware or have their own input on. I don't think it changed anything, but I think they could have, and they should have. That I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes, they should have told people yes. And the reason why I'm saying that, as you know, I'm a part of the diaspora liaison, group for Antigua. One of the members of our committee or group is, oh my gosh, I'm being delayed.
I'm here, brother. Go ahead.
Are you hearing me now?
We're hearing you, Dr. Ray. Perez, are you hearing me clearly? Or
I'm hearing you. Yeah.
Hello?
You're still breaking up. But
Are you
I'm
hearing me now?
Yes, we're hearing you, Dr. Ray.
Okay, good.
okay.
Okay. Have a diaspora liaison network. America, I should say the US and Canada. We have Dominican Republic on the diaspora, in the diaspora Facebook a lot. He's a part of the team. He's represented. He came to Antigua in, I guess, say 25, 26 years at all. Now he's Antigua speak. Right? He has a very strong network of Dominicans. I think they say around 10% of the island now has Dominicans. So we have, being 100,000 people, we have close to 10,000 Dominicans in Antigua. Percent of the population. That's quite, I mean, a huge number. It behooves us to communicate with them, and for them to communicate with us. Now, yes, it is true that the older ones may not be too inclined to learn English. But you have the younger ones. You have the younger ones who are interested in learning English. As a matter of fact, I have a family member, say, who is married to someone from Dominican Republic. And if you hear her speak dialect, you would think she was born in Antigua. She speaks dialect in Antigua while still speaking Spanish. Now, they have a daughter who speaks English quite clearly. So I don't think that dialect or our pidgin is an issue. I think it's for us, giving us more opportunities to learn another language, and not that everybody's going to learn it, but
Right.
I think it just gives us a lot more scope in terms of.
Perez, your thought. This is really a progressive step. Yes, it's not going to be instant and forward thinking. What about that argument?
Again, when even with the discourse that we had on Facebook with Dr. Ray, it isn't a situation that I was opposing anything. I agree with the move of us having it as a second language. That's neither here nor there for me. I understand, again, the reference I made from the Dutch Caribbean. They do that. Dutch is their main language. They learn it at home. Then they learn, Papimento, is what they learn at home, which is their dialect. Then you have the Dutch that they learn as what we learn as English in school, along with English and Spanish. So by the time the student gets out of school, that individual knows 4 different languages. So I have no issues with it. It will help our young people be more marketable. And again, because we have a global market, touch of a button, you're connected to somebody from anywhere in the world. I don't disagree with it. I just feel that we are not doing enough with the people that we have here, because again, from an educator's point of view, too often we have our young people coming into the classroom with no understanding of the language. They cannot speak English at all. How can I then teach them? Because I'm not going to teach in Spanish. I don't know enough Spanish to teach in Spanish, then 2, you can't expect me to be doing 2 lessons in one where I'm doing Spanish. I don't have enough time for that. I have 70 minutes in the classroom. I'm already spending 15 minutes settling them because they're young people. Then to go try and teach in English and Spanish, that's not going to work. So just like what we do with our students when they go to other countries where the language is not English, they have to learn, there needs to be something put in place. The Ministry of Education should have a program, because we have this connection with our Dominican brothers and sisters and from whoever else that is Spanish speaking, or even those who are coming from French as well. There should be something in place where for at least a 6 months period, because students may learn faster than adults. So that's understood. Their brains are more pliable then. So 6 months at least, you enroll them into an ESOL, that they can be able to navigate the space that they're going to be thrusted into. I think it's very unfair for a child to come. Well, you're going to say something?
1 year.
English as a second language.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry. So it's something that's already in, it's something that already exists. It's something that already exists. So all we need to do is implement that, because we are putting our students at a disadvantage. You're coming into a classroom. The only reason why some of these students are able to navigate is because they're persons, there are other students who are able to speak both English and Spanish that assist them. So it's not unheard of. We just don't have it in place, and I don't think it's fair to our students.
All right. Let me ask you a question. As a student comes into your classroom and he does English, how do you deal? I mean, engaging as far as currently?
I can't do anything but say good morning and move on. Because again, the Spanish that
so he or she doesn't learn?
They can't learn from me. I can't reach them because they don't speak enough English. There's no way that the Spanish that I know, what I would be asked to do, Daren, is to go home and try to find all the vocabulary that I need to find within that lesson. But here's a problem with that. When I'm teaching on a regular basis, there are many times where I have to find examples on my feet to ensure that the students understand the content. Now, if my vocabulary is not this big for Spanish, how am I going to be able then to find those words to teach the student? And again, I do not have the time. I have 70 minutes to work with. The English-speaking students take 15 minutes in a lot of cases to settle down. Then when you get into the lesson, you're trying to explain a new concept. Teacher may not understand. You have to stop and start again. By the time you stop and start again, 25 minutes done gone. Then you have to still try and get through that lesson. By the time you get through the lesson, again, remember you have students interfering with each other. The classroom environment is very dynamic. Children are going to be doing this, doing that, throwing pens across the room, talking out of turn, telling a child, shut up. There's so many things that goes on in a classroom that you have to manage to get your lesson through. Then to add Spanish on top of that, Daren, that is suicide. It's suicide. Our students struggle with English. So it's a challenge to try and get it. There's too much going on that one.
I do understand what you're saying. So what would you, let's say that the Minister of Education or the Mr. Claire Brown decides to have a sit down with you and other colleague educators to explore the best ways of addressing this issue. What are some of the areas that you would like to see addressed so that this policy can be effectively implemented?
The policy of the Spanish being a second language, or of what I think they should do with the current students, so I can make sure I understand the question.
Will lead to the first will lead to the second. The current situation, which is the current Spanish guys who don't have any clue of English.
Right.
The future policy can be successfully implemented.
So the future, right? So the future issue is neither here nor there, because again, you're starting from preschool. That's not a problem. That should happen. Starting from preschool, that should happen regardless of what is being done now in the secondary. But for our current students, before we take in any student, they need to go through a period of getting acclimated to English. Because if they come to school, if something happens to them, let's do it this way. If something happens in the classroom, and let's just say I do not have another Spanish-speaking student in the classroom, if something goes wrong with the child, how can the child communicate with me to say that there's something wrong, other than me just being vigilant in the classroom, which, of course, you're going to say, well, teachers should always be vigilant of what's happening in the classroom. But if something goes wrong and the child, I can't see, or just seeing what's going on, he can't express himself for me to understand what's going on, how then can I help the child? So the child is already at a disadvantage because they can't communicate with me to tell me what's going on. So the first thing that needs to happen before they come into our school system, they need to be set apart. I understand the whole idea of inclusion, and I think we divorce these things and include these things when it suits us, and that's where the challenge really comes in. If we want to do inclusion, you cannot have a child coming into the classroom and not be able to communicate with its teacher. That don't make no kind of sense to me. So if we take them outside, again, I go back to the whole idea of what happens when we travel. It doesn't say that we're not going to be inclusive. It's because they want us to be inclusive that they teach us for a year the language. So why are we disadvantaging, how the word go? Putting our students at a disadvantage by not teaching them or giving them. Yeah, it's unfair to the student because they're coming into an environment that is very new. They don't know English because that's not what they hear at home. And then all the English they hear at school, it's going to be frustrating to that child. So when they go home, all they want to hear is Spanish. Unless that child is diligent enough to be able to say, okay, I want to learn English, so let me practice. And that does not happen very easy even for adults. It does not, because we want to always default to our comfort zone. So if you have the children, and this is what the question you asked me, if you have the children enrolled in a program for at least 6 months, because again, children's minds are more pliable than adults, for at least 6 months, to let them know the basics of English language, so that when they get into the classroom, they can at least be able to communicate with their teacher. Because you're putting a lot of pressure on them and also the teachers who are mandated by law to teach the children. But can I really do that if there's a language barrier?
Yeah, point. Your response to that, I think, with arguments, what are your thoughts on?
Okay, so
that's for Dr.
The example he gave about teaching, the example he gave about teaching. So my sister, I have a good example. My mother moved to Puerto Rico in 1983. My sister stayed in Antigua until she was about 12, living with my grandmother. And my mother eventually sent for my sister, I want to say 1988. My sister was about, she went to Puerto Rico to live with my mother, she lived in Puerto Rico for years, but my mother doesn't speak much Spanish. She knows a few words. And my sister had to go to school in Puerto Rico. High school. She was in Clear Hall Secondary School in Antigua, first form. And she attended a all Spanish speaking school, not knowing any English. Any Spanish, I'm sorry. She had to learn math, social studies in Spanish, Spanish in Spanish, and all that stuff. And in less than 6 months, she was speaking Spanish. She didn't have any Spanish classes. She learned from just being, because children are sponges and children will learn the language faster. Still doesn't speak Spanish. My mother lived in 20-something years. My sister got a job after leaving school to be a bilingual person. Bilingual, spoke Spanish well. She said to me, I learned Spanish. Translator, right? But she also was bilingual, where she got a job in the airline, work with, when she came to America, because she spoke both Spanish and English, she got a job really, really quickly. English, she said, what's the English word for this? Because I forgot that. I don't really know that word because she left here so young. She might left Antigua so young, she might not have known that word in English, but she knows the word in Spanish. I had to explain to me, and I had to say, okay, probably this word. And over time, English a little better. But she learned Spanish from 12 or 13 or 12 without going to any Spanish classes because she was in the environment all Spanish. She adapt. If you move to Guadeloupe, if you move to Martinique as a young child, you're going to learn French very quickly, despite you're not having in Spanish class, so to speak. I mean, it's French class, because now the older people probably will have a time. Like I just told you, mother has a hard time speaking Spanish. She knows a few words up to now. And my mother lived there longer than my sister, but she'd stay 18 and she speaks fluent Spanish. I mean, fluent Spanish. You would never know she wasn't born in Puerto Rico. So what I'm saying is, I hear what the teacher is saying, but I'm telling you have those scenarios where the child may have a problem. You don't know how to address the problem because of the fact that Spanish, but children adapt very quickly. And I'm telling you, 6, 7, 8 months function in English just as well because they are sponges. That is why they're trying to start this thing
which is why I'm asking,
kindergarten, because
which is why I'm asking Dr. Ray. This is why I'm asking Dr. Ray. Why because of that, why is it that we just thrust them into the environment? Yes, I know that they could adapt well, but I think it's different if they're in high school versus primary school. In primary school, the information that they're getting is not as I'm trying to find the correct word, because when you're, especially for example in third form, you're doing so many different subject areas, and that can become a challenge for a child, especially when it's not in English or it's not in the mother tongue. So if it takes 6 months, 6 to 8 months, perfect. Enroll them in something before, so that at least they get acclimated to that. So once they enter into the school, because I also find a challenge why we allow students to join secondary school in the second and the third term. The child is going to repeat. Why are we setting them up for that? I don't see that makes sense. That is my point. I don't see that makes sense.
And if they repeat, it's a big deal. I repeated school.
No. That's not what I'm saying.
I repeated third form.
There's nothing wrong with repeating. That's not what I'm saying. If they come in the first term will give them some time to acclimate themselves, and that is possible. I am still saying give the child the best chance at doing well. Putting them in school in the second and third term of the school year does not make sense, because the child is not going to go any further, especially the child is not from an English-speaking country. It doesn't make sense. Let the child have some way to give them the best chance at navigating the space, and that is where I'm having the challenge. That is where I'm having the challenge.
So what I'll say, what you now, what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
makes sense. Now, why can both be done at the same time? Why can we still have it? Oh, maybe I'm not hearing me again.
Now I'm hearing you.
Yeah, he's saying my phone is saying. Yeah, what is we can both arguments can be implemented and still have. So this can be a supplemental part of the program. So what he's advocating, supplemental part of the program, that doesn't mean that we can't have it as a second language. So if you're saying we can add this to the program, because needs to be fleshed out over time. I don't think everything is written in stone. I don't think there is a policy that is developed where it's very rigid and it has to be done this way. So I believe that voices like his can help we move forward in terms of how to implement this process.
Mm-hmm.
So what has a lot of merit, both things at the same time. Make second language while implementing the same concepts that he's asking about, or he's suggesting. For example, 6 months course, a first term course where they acclimated into English. All that's fine. So it can be a supplemental part of this plan. So it's not that, so he's not, we can embrace both things at the same time. Because this is not necessarily to aid in the older generation. It's to aid in the generation. Sorry. It's freezing again.
All right. We're going to have a conversation there for discussion, but I want to
Freezing again.
Daren is completely frozen now.
Frozen. Frozen. Okay, good night. Just gotta go.
Are you ready to paint? Casada Paints and Supplies Inc. is the perfect place to start. We are the official distributors of Sherwin-Williams Paints. Sherwin-Williams, with over 150 years of innovation and experience, offers more than 1,500 paint colors to choose from. Our color palettes are handpicked by professional designers, making it easy to coordinate colors throughout your home or business. Visit us on the Utility Drive, Casada Gardens, or call 562-9450. All you have to do is visit or call Casada Paints.
Every home starts with a plan and a solid foundation. With Community First Foundation Savings Account, you can save for down payments, closing costs, and major home repairs one step at a time. Designed for first-time buyers and homeowners alike, this account encourages disciplined saving with a simple start and 12-month savings period that keeps your goals on track. Build smarter, save stronger with a foundation savings only at Community First Cooperative Credit Union, because strong homes start with strong foundations.
All right, folks, it is now 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. This is Twin Island Media Live for this Monday, the 19th day of May, the 18th day of May 2026. I don't know why I'm jumping ahead of it. Tomorrow is the 19th. We had a conversation with Dr. George Mansoor. We were speaking about hypertension just a day after World Hypertension Day. That is something that, of course, is affecting many people throughout Antigua and Barbuda, and according to Dr. Mansoor's figures, affects 2 billion people worldwide. That's give or take about 20% of the world's population. Also, we had Dr. Daren and Perez Howson speaking about Spanish being officially a second language and the controversy that is surrounding that. So we had that discussion, which just concluded. And then we are going to be joined, and we are joined by the Public Relations Officer of the United Progressive Party, Mr. Jonathan Winner. Jonathan, how are you doing?
Good evening, Daren. Can you hear me clear now?
I can hear you loud and clear. Yes, I can.
Okay, fine.
Thanks so much for joining us very quickly. The reason why you're joining us is because you had a concern. I mean, the United Progressive Party released a statement yesterday, essentially giving or providing an explanation to the public for the absence of the political leader and the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Jamal Pringle, and also the Barbuda Member of Parliament, close ally of the UPP, Trevor Walker, MP Trevor Walker. They're both overseas. There was an explanation given for the absence of the Honorable Jamal Pringle, having to do with his daughter's health. A reason less detailed was given for MP Walker. But you had a particular concern about the way it was dealt with by members on the opposing side. And that's the reason why you're joining me tonight. By the way, before you talk about that, Jonathan, and I know you may not be prepared to talk about the Spanish second language issue, but you have a problem with it fundamentally, or you're not prepared to articulate on that tonight?
No, I don't have a problem with Spanish becoming a second language in Antigua and Barbuda, and I don't think I can safely say, well, I could safely say that no, the United Progressive Party doesn't have a problem with it. I think the issue arises is, as usual, the lack of consultation before the government implements certain initiatives, policies, and programs. And in a democracy, Daren, a representative democracy, representative means you ought to, when you go in the different government areas, sectors, you speak on behalf of who put you in those positions. So in this instance, we're speaking about the legislature, or even cabinet, because cabinet is first from the legislature, individuals put there by constituents who reside in Antigua and Barbuda. So you cannot actively, Daren, represent your people without canvassing or understanding the ideas, the viewpoints of the people you want to represent. So it is very unfortunate that the Gaston administration continues, as we have seen the trend is, just unfortunately, that consultation is not deemed a priority for this government. Again, there's no fundamental issue with Spanish being a second language. The government shoots itself in the foot and provides the space for criticism due to the lack of consultation, and people don't feel as involved as they ought to in our government and governance structure.
I understand. But onto the matter at hand. The opposing side, your political opponents, i.e. the members of the Gaston Brown administration, and the response that came out in Parliament to the absence, or in the wake of Parliament, the signing in or the swearing in of members. The Attorney General made some comments. Share those comments with us, by the way. You
Sure.
have them to hand?
Yes, I do have the transcript of his comments.
Right.
And I'm going to read them. But just before I read the comments, give some text to viewers and listeners, Daren, if I may.
Yeah, of course, please.
Right. So the long story short is MPs Pringle and Walker, that's MP for All Saints East and St. Luke, Jamal Pringle, leader opposition, and MP for Barbuda, the Honorable Trevor Walker, were not able to make it to the first parliamentary sitting after the April 30th election, which was really done for the MPs to take oath of allegiance. Now, you normally take they already would have taken all the oaths, allegiance, the oath of office, and the oath of secrecy at the ceremony that the Labour Party would have had, or the administration would have had at AUA. But also, whenever this parliament meets right after the first thing after an election, it is always done that MPs to become, for Parliament to conduct business, essentially, you have to then take the oath of allegiance again. So that was what today's sitting was for. And to be clear, this is not something that can only be done today. If you check the standing orders for any parliamentary sitting, there's always a provision, or the order of business, there's always provision for new members to take an oath, to take the oath. So at any sitting of Parliament, at any time, new members of Parliament can take the oath of allegiance. So just to be clear, so today is not essential for that to happen. Okay, so having said that, now I want to make it clear that the reason behind the absence of both MP Pringle and Walker was due to family emergencies. Now, MP Walker decided to keep his private life private and left it at family emergency in the statement put out. Well, technically it was from the office of the leader opposition, shared across UPP platforms as well too. But MP Pringle decided to be a little bit more specific in terms of what his specific family emergency was. He decided to let the public know that he was traveling with his daughter, who is not yet an adult, who is a young child, overseas for a medical procedure. Now, Daren, in my mind, I might be wrong, I might be naive, you can correct me, but I think if, let's say I have a child, you have a child, Daren, and your child is in need of medical attention that requires them to go abroad, I think it's only reasonable that you would expect for a parent to support their young child in this serious time of need. I just don't see what's controversial about this. Comments, the AG's comments seem to be eluding me, so I'll switch my device because I know it's the press, no, not the press release, but the comment itself to you, to your so, and I'll from there as well too. You still see me on the screen?
Sure. I'm seeing the screen, but it looks black.
Oh, okay.
It looks black.
So it'll have to be blank while I read it. So while I read it, it will be blank. So this
okay.
Right.
Or maybe I could read. I think I pulled something up from one of our news sources. Attorney General Stedor Cutie Benjamin, using the first sitting of the new parliamentary session to cast doubt on the legitimacy of two opposition MPs' absences, despite a press statement issued the day before explaining their circumstances. Members of the ruling ABLP party were sworn in as parliamentarians on Monday ahead of the speech from the throne by Governor General Sir Rodney Williams scheduled for this week. In his brief remarks before calling for the sitting to be adjourned, Sir Stedroy said that he felt it strange, that both opposition MPs were absent. It is not passing strange, and this is a direct quote, that today of all days in public history, some sort of excuse has been made. People being sick, traveling. Is it not strange? I ask. I say yes, he told the House. He further described the opposition as having, quote, disappeared, unquote, just as they did at the last elections, adding that they don't appear, they don't work. As a matter of fact, they are a disunited bunch of people. Do I have that right? Is that this essentially the essence of what your understanding of what the attorney?
Oh, dear, Daren, you still there?
Hi.
Okay,
for some reason, I'm muted in the back. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Yes,
that is spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard you. That is word for word essentially what the AG said in Parliament at the sitting today, and it's quite unfortunate for several reasons. One, the AG cannot use the excuse of ignorance to the reasons behind the absence of those two members. Because letters, before I even get the letters on the day, there was a press release from the Office of the Leader of the Opposition itself sent out before the day of the sitting of Parliament. So the public as a whole were aware of their absence, the two MPs, and the reason why they were absent. So ignorance cannot be claimed there. On top of that, to further hammer home that point, the Speaker of the House would have read the excuses, because not only was a press release sent out, but letters were written to the Speaker explaining the absence of the members, which is proper parliamentary procedure as per the standing orders. And the reasoning behind their absence was in those letters as well too. So the Speaker would have read those letters at the start of this, at the beginning of the sitting. So again, the AG cannot claim ignorance.
All right.
The second important ignorance I want to raise: inhumane, distasteful, and quite frankly, callous nature of the general. If you are able, if you can go back on Facebook or YouTube, you will see that not only the Attorney General was part of this, but Paul, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Green, Honorable, he would have been laughing and egging on and even contributing to the comments. You know, when members are not on the floor with the mic, but they're contributing to other members in terms of listening to this. Crosstalk. Thank you, crosstalk. And I say it is inhumane, it is distasteful, and it is callous. Why? Because if any of those members on the government bench had any warmth in their heart, empathy at all, it would be really hard for them to do what they did today. Why that? You cannot be a father in this instance, or a parent. Let's just make it a parent. And you have a child, Daren, who in this instance, and by the way, before I get into the details, the Honorable Jamal Pringle has no obligation to disclose the details of his child's illness to the public. Let's just be very clear about that, Daren. I mean, they are politicians, yes, they are public servants, but they're still human beings and they still have private lives. They are individuals who hold public office, and there's a line that must be crossed. And you don't cross that line of family. Daren. You don't do it, especially when people suffer with their health. But anyway, the Honorable Jamal Pringle has a young daughter who has been suffering for, I don't want to say some months now with her health. She has her challenges. I don't want to get into full details. This is not my place.
The press release did not. The press release did not say what the illness was.
Exactly.
That's fair. I'm not going to press you on that at all.
And quite frankly,
if he doesn't feel comfortable discussing it, it's his prerogative.
Quite frankly, yes, you're right, Daren. Quite frankly, let's say the healthcare system here in Antigua and Barbuda is not able to fully provide for the young girl's needs. So she had to travel overseas. Now, is it inconsiderate? Is it a dereliction of duty? Is it negligence for the MP for All Saints East and St. Luke to ask for excuse from the sitting, whose own purpose, not to discuss public business, not to debate bills, motions, items of legislation, but only for taking the oath of allegiance? That is all that was done today, which I emphasize at the start, that can be done at every sitting of Parliament. That was the only agenda item on the order paper today. So is it negligence or dereliction of duty for MP Pringle to prioritize his family's health, his daughter's health, to support her? I hear people saying that this is what really upsets me, and this is what really got me going today. I saw prominent Labour Party members and supporters saying that they believe it's fake, that the situation is concocted by MP Pringle to use it as a reason as to why he's absent. Now, you could go on the Daily Observer, when they put it out, you check all the comments. Well, I think Observer has subsequently deleted quite a post, because quite frankly, I couldn't believe what I was reading, Daren. This is not something that should be controversial on an issue at all. We all have family. What is the issue? That if the Prime Minister, the Honourable Gaston Brown, member of the City West, his daughter Peace, Daren, had murdered overseas, nobody in the United Progressive Party I could never support if they were the Prime Minister miss Parliament because he's attending to his children over, totally out of order. It's distasteful, it's callous, it lacks empathy. So what I'm going to hold now is, if you are arguing, AG, if you are saying MP Chet Green, that it is not acceptable to attend to your daughter, your underage daughter, in her time of medical need, to miss Parliament, that's not acceptable. Any Labour Party MP who misses Parliament here on out has no excuse then. I expect all of them to be there, because that bar is very high. Really no reason.
I think the Prime Minister said that he's not going to accept any excuses for absences or something. There was some comment from the PM about that.
Right, but and again, the last point I want to conclude these opening remarks, Daren. The Prime Minister, after the election, would have called for you, right, Daren? Yeah. He would have said, the election is over. Persons who win elections, they ask for the nation to come together. The time of campaigning has ended. It's time to come together and move the nation forward in the interest of nation building. And which is something you can understand. Those are sentiments you have no issue with. But the word must match your action. You can't be calling for national unity after a general election. It doesn't make sense. When this is the context. You can't be calling for that unity when you, your party, and supporters are attacking the medical circumstances of the daughter of the leader of the opposition. How is that unifying? So how is MP Pringle to feel when he returns to Parliament, having seen all these things, having seen the comments, even some of the comments from the Speaker of the House himself, who doesn't condemn these things and almost condones the comments made today? How is he supposed to act? Is he supposed to come and smile and sit in Parliament and say all is well, everything is good? I'm not saying he won't come, he will go. But for them to be saying unity, and he acts, he's always angry when he goes to Parliament. But this is what you have to go through every time he goes here. And there's no protection for the minority ought to be done. When you read Erskine, maybe you look at the standing orders and you look at parliamentary norms and convention, the minority ought to be protected by the Speaker. This is one of his main jobs. But that is not there. And my point is, Daren, in conclusion, It is a really
I'm actually looking for some comments from the Prime Minister, but go ahead, Jonathan.
Yes, it is a really sad day in Antigua and Barbuda that we do not consider the humanity and the family of individuals who sacrifice so much in public service on both sides of the aisle, Daren. You're never gonna catch me. God forbid, I ever come on public radio or even in private and say these kind of remarks. It's unacceptable. So we in Antigua and Barbuda need to raise the level and the standard of our public discourse. We need to raise it. It's down in the gutter. It's actually below the gutter. To be attacking a young girl's medical plight and even to be suggesting that it's a hoax, that's below the gutter. We need to raise the standard. We have things to do in this nation and things much more than to be attacking somebody's child's medical situation.
Right. I'm going to read a little bit of what the Prime Minister said. My distinguished countrymen and countrywomen, today above all else, this is yesterday, by the way, they had a prayer service.
Right.
Well, to give thanks for, the election victory and so on and so forth. For it is by his grace, guidance, and mercy and favor that we stand here humbled by this resounding electoral victory. This victory is for the people, especially the working class. It is a testament it is a testament to what can happen when faith, hard work, unity, and purpose come together in service to a nation. There were moments of pressure, moments of hostilities and vile attacks, but through every challenge, God gave us the wisdom to lead, strength, and endure, courage to persevere, and the calm assurance that truth, service, and genuine love for people would prevail. And so today we say, to God be the glory, great things he has done. I want to sincerely thank every single person who participated in the campaign. And he went on, giving thanks to those who would have, helped the process. And to those faithful men and women who prayed morning, noon, and night for our nation, for peace, for wisdom, for protection, and for victory. Your faith reminded us of an eternal truth. While elections are fought in public, prayer with works secures a victory. Your prayers strengthen our movement. I'm trying to get to the point. Oh, right. My friends, now that the campaign has ended, that's really what I want to get to, so bear with me. The greater work is, this victory must not divide us, it must unite us. We are one people, one nation, with one common destiny. I therefore issue a clarion call today for a more harmonious society, a society rooted in mutual respect, compassion, discipline, productivity, and national pride. Let us move together with a common purpose, not as Labour people alone, not as supporters of one party or another, but as proud citizens of Antigua and Barbuda, determined to build a brighter future for generations yet unborn. So the Prime Minister clearly was sending a signal, that he wants the healing of the nation. Election is over. We need to come together, coalesce in the interest of Antigua and Barbuda. So do you think that the Attorney General missed that memo?
No, he couldn't have missed the memo. He was in the front row listening to that. And also, perhaps the Prime Minister didn't listen to what he was reading because I didn't hear him at any point in time or even see, because I watched the video. I didn't just read the news articles. I watched the video for myself. I didn't see the Prime Minister just give the AG a tap on his leg or his hand to say, that's not really necessary. I didn't see any of that. There was nobody on the Labour Party or even the Speaker who condemned it. The Speaker himself having received excuses from the members. No, I just can't understand how it is you're talking about a harmonious nation and coming together and unity and all of these fanciful things. It just seems like you're just doing it just for show, just to go through the motions. Because every time it comes for you to display that sense of unity, and this is one of the lowest lows that I can remember in quite a long time. I remember some time ago the Prime Minister attacking people's appearance and all kinds of things, and attacking women and demeaning them. Basically, online bullying. But this is a new law for me that I can remember, because this is a young child who has a medical emergency which requires them to go overseas for treatment, and you're attacking the father for supporting her. I don't understand.
Let me ask you. I understand. Your point is well made. Thanks a lot for joining us just to share your thoughts on that. There's a question I have for you, though, before you go, because I know your time is limited this evening, as is mine. the Antigua-Barbuda Labour Party had a service, and I saw their flyer promote that service. There were essentially members throughout, well, from all the different campaigns, from all the constituencies, all the candidates, both those who won and those who lost. And they were having a service of Thanksgiving, I believe it was SJPC. Then I would have seen a similar flyer for the leader of the opposition, All Saints East and St. Luke, for service of Thanksgiving. But he was the only one on that flyer. And someone sent both of them to me, as if to say, Daren, you see the difference between the two parties and the two campaigns, or the two examples of leadership, is the point the person was making. Is that something that the UPP missed, or did I miss a flyer and there was a service for all the candidates, win, lose, those who won and those who lost? Well, there's only one who won. Those who lost, or that was a misstep on the part of the UPP? Because more than one person drew it to my attention. They thought it was not a good look.
Mm-hmm. What I can say is that event is not a party event, a youth event. It's an event put on by the branch of All Saints East and St. Specific. So that's one way to the part of the party. Sorry. So what I can say, the public can stay tuned for when there is the announcement of the nationwide EVP event.
Okay.
And of course, I think you can understand the sentiments of those in All Saints East and St. Luke. They would have put in quite a hard fight to retain the seat. People, I think, often think it's an automatic thing. The election is never automatic. You have to put in the work for every seat to win everything. So we just look forward to when the party itself has its official.
Okay. All right. That was actually at the Cana Moravian Church. It will be at the Cana Moravian Church. So that's actually on the 24th. This Sunday coming. Okay. All right. I got you. All right. We'll watch that space. We'll watch it and see. Because, I mean, further from the election, people are going to be like, election done gone. Why are you having a service now? So it's something you might have to bear in mind. I'm just saying. Optics, you know how it is. Optics and perception. Yeah.
Well, as well, too, we want the whole things are structured in terms of the days. We didn't even know until recently who all our opposition senators are, when they would have been sworn in, So you would want to do all that. So government knowing what they're going to do, we're able to swear in and have everybody come one time. So because there's only one seat, we would also want the participation of all the parliamentarians having been duly appointed, etc. So now all of it is out of the way, and hopefully we can even include some of our brothers and sisters from the BPM as well too, if conditions permit. We will have our national and even cross-party Thanksgiving celebration or service, whatever form it might take.
Okay. All right, Jonathan Wenner, we agreed you go till 9:30. Time to go. So for both of us. So thank you so much for making yourself available tonight. It is appreciated as always, and we'll look forward to future discussions. And we're still working on that link up with you and Senator O'Donoghue. She's looking forward to being with you, as you are looking forward to being with her, I suspect.
I believe I'll be there for the first time on Wednesday.
Exactly. I think there was some hesitance. There was some hesitation on her part. She wanted, of course, the swearing in to take place, as well as to have the first sitting. So I suspect sometime around then, or shortly thereafter, we'll have that promised link up. And I know many people are going to be looking forward to that. Jonathan versus Angelica. So have a good one. Have a good one. Jonathan Wenner is always good. Have a safe drive, or have a good night and be safe. Let me put it that way.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, man, you're welcome. All right, so that just about does it. Folks, I didn't even ask Jonathan about the shaking yesterday. But yes, we had a shaking, a hell of a shake. I don't think that I've experienced an earthquake quite like that in my lifetime. Yes, if y'all are going to tell me about 1974, I don't know about 1974 because I wasn't born yet. Let me just say that. So I can't speak to that, but certainly in recent past, as far as I can remember, it was loud, it was heavy, and it was long. All right. or some of my female friends on Facebook friends on Facebook, they said it was long and hard. I suppose they were trying to send a message. People are very interesting in this little Antigua. But yes, so I hope everything is fine. I hope you didn't sustain any damage, folks. I hope that all is well in your neck of the woods with your families. Thank you so much for being a part of our live tonight. We had some issues with the internet. I had to do a little something with the internet tonight. My internet is usually okay, and our guest internet sometimes not okay. But tonight I was at fault, so I'm sorry for the bad experience that you might have heard, my chopping up from time to time. But thank you for being steadfast, being a part of our live tonight. More to come. Continuous improvement. We appreciate your feedback, including those that are telling us, hey, we need to do better. We appreciate it. Have a good night. Be safe. God bless. We'll see each other again soon. Bye-bye.